This is the Seven Figure Standard Podcast, hosted by Arash Vasugi and Mikey Stiller, with mindset and strategies to help you break through and create personal freedom.
Hello, and welcome back to the Seven Figure Standard Podcast. I'm Mikey Stiller, joined by my co-host, Arash Vasugi, and we're so thrilled to be back with you for another episode. Today, we're going to be talking about something that everybody can relate to, because at one point or another, everyone has been stuck. So let's open the conversation of why are so many people stuck? Arash, why don't we start right there?
How are you, Mikey?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's an interesting question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want everybody to think, when you're stuck, why are you stuck? And it always comes down to the same reasoning. And if you would ask me years ago, the first answer I would have given was because they don't have goals. And that's not the right answer. I discovered that over years of really putting this to work. People are stuck because they keep fighting their present reality. They keep fighting where they are. They say, I want to change, but everything they think, feel, their actions are from where they are. Now, I want everybody listening to this to think about this. Right now, your dominant idea today, was it where you are or was it where you're going? And right there is why people are stuck, because they see themselves from where they currently are. They want more, but they see themselves from where they are. And most people stay where they are because they don't ask themselves the right questions. Our last episode, we talked about questions. So here comes questions again. Why do I keep doing what I've been doing that keeps getting me the same results? Do I know why I'm doing it? What do I have to do if I'm going to achieve my 2024 goal? But that's why people stay stuck. Look, we just finished the new year, right? And I could go to somebody and look at their results in December of last year and tell them you will be in the exact same spot next year if you don't change your programming. And that's how most people do. You'll see people lose weight, gain it back, lose it, gain it back, because they never change the program. We've got to get understanding that if we're going to break through of being stuck, and we've all been there, I've been there. You know, I always say being stuck sucks, but there's so much growth in it when you get on the other side that it was valuable to be stuck that caused you to make the change. Because, dissatisfaction is when you make the change. When you're inspirationally dissatisfied, you say, this is what I'm going to do no matter what. And so you got to ask ourselves, the problem is always where you're at. That's the problem, staying where you're at. We've got to see ourselves to where we want to go. And if anybody's been following our podcast for a while, you're always hearing us talk about you have to get on the frequency of what you want. Well, how do you get on the frequency of what you want? You see yourself already where you want to go. You're already there in your mind. And we've got to get so good. This is not easy to do, but it's essential. We've got to get so good at disciplining our five senses. Let me give you guys an example. I want you to think of your goal right now. I want everyone to put their goal in their mind. Right away, we're seeing where we want to go. Now, by disciplining your five senses, I want you to see what you would see had you achieved that goal. What would you see? What would your experiences that you would experience had you achieved that goal? Then what would you hear? Are people congratulating you? Think of people close to you congratulating you, saying, Mikey, oh my God, you hit your 2024 goal. Like you're hearing it. You want to hear what you would hear. You want to touch what you would touch. What would you touch? Would you go first class? Would you go on a private plane? Can you touch the leather? Did you get a new car to celebrate yourself, or did you get something? What would you touch? So as you go into actually disciplining all your senses, I just gave you a few of what you would feel. That's how you're going to keep your attention and make that home of where you want to go, where your dominant thinking is. And that's going to keep you set up for success. But the beautiful part of this, if we discipline our senses, we automatically are seeing ourselves from where we want to go, and our reality will match it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll give you a big idea, Mikey. It's going to sound so simple that everyone's going to reject it. Everything on the outside comes from us. Everything's a mirror of us. So it's a direct reflection of what's going on inside of us. So if something's keeps showing up in my life consistently, I know there's something going on inside. Like when I'm really winning on the outside, I'm really winning on the inside. When I'm losing on the outside, I know I'm losing on the inside. And then when those similar circumstances keep happening, that's when I know, okay, we've got to adjust it or keep it going, right? And change never happens by accident. The change always happens on the inside first. So this is where our behaviors and our habits, like we talked about last week, on last week's episode, was so important. And if you haven't listened to it, you want to listen to it. Because until we change what's going on inside of us, the outside doesn't change.
So, Raj, you just talked about really checking in with yourself and being aware of where you're at and when you're moving in the wrong direction so that you can make a pivot. But I think what a lot of people do is they ignore those signs until they get stuck. And then once they're stuck, they're just spinning their wheels. And we can all relate to that frustration, right? You're in that position of stuck and you're thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And then as soon as you get unstuck, because being stuck never lasts forever, eventually you're going to get unstuck. You feel that relief, but you also look in hindsight and think, God, how did I not think of that sooner? Or, wow, if I just had that idea when I was stuck. So we talk first about giving yourself opportunities to pivot forward before you get to the position of really being stuck. And then second, really elevating your thinking when you are stuck.
Well, it's all going to go down to how aware you are. So awareness is everything. So everything in our life is a reflection of our awareness. So for somebody to be aware of themselves, they have to have really good processes in place. This is where we have to know where we are and where we're going. Those are the two most important things. Like, what do I really want? And we've got to understand that our want, our new model, our new program is based, we built it around what we want. What would that person's confidence be? What would their identity be? What type of standards would that person be? And we have to hold ourselves to it. Let me give you an example of this that you could, I'll ask you guys some more questions that'll trigger you, okay? There's a concept I teach to my elite clients called the Power of Five. So the Power of Five is our foundation to success. It's 5 things that really lifts us up. So I want to start with decision. Like, how decisive are you? Now, look at the person you want to be. Look at your goal and the person you want to be. How decisive would they be? Is there a gap between those? Well, that's what you have to fill. You know, when somebody is really good at making decisions, it's because they trust themselves. They're aware. They built that. They practice making decisions. A lot of people say, oh, I'd rather be safe than sorry. I think that's a terrible idea. You know, because your activities always create the result by default. If you show me somebody's activities for the day, I'll tell you what they did. You know, and then you compound it over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you'll see significant results. Then you look at, what type of attitude do I have? Do I have a winning attitude? Am I focusing on what's wrong or what's right? Imagine if your attitude was that you bulletproofed your perception, that you saw the world only in abundance, that every adversity you're like, oh, this is so good. You know, well, your whole world would change. Your programming is how you look at the world automatically. That's what awareness is. It's what we habitually do without thinking. And so, do you have a winning attitude? Then we look at disciplines. Are your disciplines aligned with the person you want to be? Well, you'll know if they're not, you're not going to get the result because discipline is the prequel to freedom. Then we go into standards and we could say, do I have significant standards or am I enslaved by my old standards of where I am? Now, that's a big one right there. Am I constantly living the same standard that keeps me stuck where I am? Then we look at our identity. Am I acting on ideas right away? Or am I always saying, well, everything has to be perfect? It's never going to be the right time. The right time is always when the opportunity creates itself. And here's the sad part. Most people, going back to their want, because you have to know what you really want more than anything else, but most people are letting their history define what their want is. Well, last year I did X, so I'm going to do 10% better, 15% better. But when you are defining your want, it's never based on history. It's based on what do you really want. Forget about the how. See, we have unlimited potential inside of us, but we have our real self and our false self. Our real self is where our infinite potential is. Our false self is competing against other people. Our false self is letting the outside constantly disturb us, letting us play small. So why people stay stuck is they're always letting the outside define where they are. Then they start rationalizing. Oh, well, I'm doing better than most. I'm doing better than most. Right?
Yeah, or even making themselves feel guilty for wanting more. Like, oh, I should be happy with what I have. Oh, do I really need all of that? I mean, there's so many stories that go through people's heads that keep them where they are.
Everything is based on the program. Mm-hmm. The problem is always in the programming. Our programming creates 95% of what we're doing today. So if I'm operating from the same program, then I know I'm not going to get more of what I want. I know that. I have to keep stretching. See, there's so few people that stretch. Like if we asked 100 people, are you stretching every day? You'd have 2%. You'd have 2 out of 100 that are saying yes. That's why winning is so easy now. And there's such a competitive advantage if you just stretch. We've got to get in the habit of stretching. But we've got to stop living based on our senses of what we see in the outside world. We're all, like I remember our mentor used to always say that people are too physical. They're too physical. They're constantly letting the outside. They don't understand the genius inside of them. Well, when I say we have unlimited potential, we do have unlimited potential, but it takes discipline to bring out that potential. And that's what's going to get you unstuck. Like I want everyone this year to have the best year of their life. Like I want for us to have our best year. I want all our clients to have the best year of their life. In order to do that, they've got to really release that old identity because we always operate congruent to our identity. We have to shed that old skin. That old skin is fear and attachment from the past. And we have to get raw with ourselves. You asked me a question, well, how do you get aware that you're doing it? You're raw with yourself. Mm-hmm. You got to get raw with yourself and say, well, today I did the same thing I've always done. Why am I doing that? See, most people don't know why they're doing things. They just do it automatically. That's the program. But if you want to create a significant jump in your life, you're going to have to create a new program.
So, Raj, you said in order to change your reality, the best place to be is inspirationally dissatisfied, where you're at that point where you're like, enough is enough, I'm done. Is that the moment where you raise your standard and never go below? Well,
I'll tell everybody, the other day I sent Mikey a text message. And I'll tell you, because I was doing this with myself, I'm always looking at where am I all in my life, okay? So I looked at different parts of my business, my personal life, and I said, am I all in? Am I all in my health? Am I all in with getting out of my comfort zone? Am I all in on acting on ideas? Am I all in on creating better activities for myself? And I told her to do the same thing. And I said, if you look at this from a neutral place, you'll see where you're comfortable, where you're doing things based on where you're at, or am I really all in? That all in is our next jump. It's our next jump to create a quantum leap. So the most aware person could be like, go to default and say, listen, I'm successful, so I'm all in. That doesn't, not necessarily. Our all in, we're here to grow. We're here to create the life that we want to live on our terms. We're here to have financial freedom. We're here to have emotional freedom. We're here to contribute, create significant contribution into the world. But so what I do is I ask myself, where am I all in? And I know if I'm not all in, I'm all out. There's no in between. Then I'm just defaulting to the old program. I don't want to live based on my old program. My old program got me here, but I don't want to stay where I am. I want to create better. I want to continue getting better and better at everything I'm doing. So that requires a new all-in commitment, a new decision. And that's why I said with the Power of Five, the first thing I said, it wasn't by accident. How decisive are you? Decision is so important because nothing moves without a decision.
So good. All right, Raj, let's hop into an action step for today.
Well, the action step is first identify. Now we're a couple weeks into the year. Am I defaulting to what I've always done? Or am I all in with my key behaviors? And I want everyone to track their activities for a week. Our activities create our results by default. And just track it without even looking at it. Just track it every hour of your working day, from your morning routine to your evening. And then after each day, go next to each activity and write next to a productive activity or non-productive. And then ask yourself, am I seeing myself where I want to be, or am I coming from where I am? Well, once we eliminate the non-productive and create productive activities, you're going to set yourself up to win. But what I could tell you is start seeing yourself consistently where you want to be. You've got to see yourself consistently already there. Speak consistently like that person. Create your programming and your behaviors like that person starting today. Starting right when you're listening to this. And listen to it over and over again. This is a very important lesson. Very important. I don't want you to be stuck. I want you to create breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. Stop seeing yourself from where you are.
So good. Raj just gave you the formula to get unstuck. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, go ahead and leave us a rating, review, share this with your friends and family. And we'll be back next week for another episode on the 7 Figure Standard podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7 Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mikey and how Voss Coach & Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachandco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7 Figure Standard.